All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Welcome back to another episode of the 700 Pelham Road Podcast, your one stop shop for all things Jack State Gamecocks, and of course, the official JSU podcast of the College Huddle and Sideline Sports Network. I'm Caleb Williams alongside my co host, Jalen Cooper. Jalen, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a busy couple of months. I don't think I had a free weekend in there at all. But we're back.
We are back, and you mentioned a busy couple months. We, I think, I'm looking back at our schedule. I think we've had something going on every single weekend, whether
Yeah,
that's being at a football game, whether that's being at weddings. I mean, it has been probably the busiest 2 months that I really remember, and that definitely since all of my wedding planning stuff back in the spring and last fall. Um, but now we're here in the middle, towards the end of October. Um, we got a big one coming up Wednesday night in Lynchburg at Liberty. Um, I venture to say this is the most crucial game of the year. Go on the road, um, play a team that preseason we weren't really expecting to beat, but here we are, 7 games in, and they look human. Um,
yeah.
this this
I
this
mean,
this isn't this isn't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're fine. I mean, not only do they look human, but I mean, this is our chance to kind of keep our foot on the gas when it comes to conference championship. So far we're undefeated in conference play. If we want to, stay in the driver's seat as far as trying to get to that conference championship game. This is the win we have to come away with.
Absolutely, and I mentioned preseason. We didn't really chalk Liberty up as a game that we could win. And I think part of it is because we expected the same Liberty we saw last year, the one that was they controlled the clock, they had the best players at every position. Um, and what we've seen this year is a shell of what we saw last year. Caden Salter has been good, but he hasn't been elite by any stretch of the imagination. Um, Quentin Cooley has been great, um, but they haven't been able to get him the ball very much. And of course, they don't have CJ Daniels anymore. CJ Daniels was probably the best receiver in Conference USA last year, and I don't think it was particularly close. Not having his ability to stretch the field, that's hurt them. They don't throw the ball very well now. It's a lot of underneath stuff, and now we go into this game, and I mean I haven't seen the opening line. I'm gonna guess Liberty's probably favored by a touchdown. Um,
Let's see,
um,
because I
well,
wouldn't be surprised if it's closer than that. We're looking at Liberty 2.
I guess Liberty favored by 2. So, um, the way that the sports books work, you get 3 at home. So in reality, this game is a wash. Um, they're
Yeah,
not expecting anyone to run off with this one. Um, but I'll be honest, I haven't been this confident going into a road game or a game against one of the top dogs in the conference as I am now. I think a lot of it has to do with what we saw from Liberty in Atlanta last weekend. They looked horrible. They couldn't move the football. They played okay defense, but they gave up too many plays down the stretch. Um, and let's call it what it is. Kennesaw State's are not a good football team. Um,
oh, not at all.
and they're not. And so to lose that game, I think it just exposes all kinds of issues. And I'll be honest, it exposes a lot of problems that I expect Rich Rod to abuse on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing is too, as much of a shock as it is that Liberty lost against Kennesaw State, it's also not a surprise because we saw that they struggled all season with some of these, mid to low conference USA teams. I mean, we saw Florida International take them into overtime. And FIU is not, one of the contenders in the conference by any means. Um, and we've seen them play a couple of other closer games that should have just, if it was the Liberty of last year, would have ordinarily, been like a 63-10 type game. But it ended up being a 10-score game and fairly low scoring. So, I mean, as long as we can look at the blueprint, and obviously coaches watch tape all day long, is what they get paid to do. But look at those two games, especially FIU and Kennesaw State. I'm sure we can, go out there and just exploit every single flaw that they've been presenting from the jump.
Yeah. One of the big holes I noticed, especially down the stretch, Kennesaw didn't have much of a problem running the ball late in the game.
Nope.
They really didn't. And I watched the highlights. There was nothing tricky they were doing. They were just lining up, late in the fourth quarter and running it down Liberty's throat, taking advantage of a handful of opportunities to throw it when they could. And if you look at this JSU team, this is the number 5 rushing team in the country. They average almost 260 yards a game on the ground, which is actually a big improvement even over last year. Last year this team was, again, one of the top teams running the football. And even last year's team was not this good as this year's team is. So I would not be shocked if early and often they're leaning on that zone read game, letting Tyler Huff and Trey Stewart get after it. And again, kind of taking that Kennesaw blueprint that we saw, running the ball between the tackles and just letting the opportunities present themselves. I would be shocked if they're throwing the ball much to start.
Yeah. Definitely going to take advantage of what seems like Liberty's inability to stop the run, at least stop the run consistently. And honestly, Liberty is lucky that we don't have Ron Wiggins, because if we had him and Trey Stewart and Andrew Paul and Tyler Huff, right now we wouldn't even be talking about a possibility of them sticking around. At that point, it would just be a bloodbath, because nobody would be tired, and it would just be nonstop running it down their throat from the second we get the first kickoff until the clock hits triple zeros at the end of the fourth quarter. So yeah, they're lucky we're down an elite running back, or else this would be even more disgusting.
Yeah, and you mentioned that running back room. Even without Ron Wiggins, I'd argue this is the best running back room in the conference. It's one of the best, really, in the country. There just aren't many teams that have, including the QB, have 3 guys that can run the ball as well as we do. And obviously, it starts with Trey Stewart. He's the conference's best running back this season. He leads Conference USA in rushing touchdowns. He's been a workhorse the last couple weeks. But if you look at the numbers, Trey Stewart and Tyler Huff essentially have the exact same numbers. Trey Stewart has 13 more carries. He's got 30 more yards and 3 more touchdowns. And for most of the season, Tyler Huff was the leading rusher. So this is a team that can do it all, and they do it with multiple guys. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the run game does early in the game, and then as the game progresses, how they really grind down Liberty's defense.
Yeah. And what's crazy, looking at the rushing stats real quick, as far as all of the people who have had significant rushing attempts this season, nobody is averaging less than 3.5 yards per carry.
No.
You have Stewart averaging 6.4. That is insane. You have Tyler Huff, the quarterback of the team, averaging 7 yards a carry. You have Smothers, albeit a lot of his runs have come in garbage time, but still, he's averaging 8.3 yards a carry. And or Lewis 3.6, and you have Andrew Paul at 5.6 yards a carry. Like, that's the thing. Anytime we put the ball on the ground, we're gonna gash you. Like at this point, we're gonna it's not a matter of 9 times out of 10. It's not a matter of if we're gonna get yards. It's how many yards we're gonna get. Are we gonna get the first down handing this ball off? Because running this read option and running some of this RPO, you never know who's going to have the ball in their hands. And even if Tyler Huff or Logan Smothers drops back to pass, if that pocket collapses, good luck.
Yeah, and you mentioned RPO and getting into the passing game. It's not just one receiver, right? You look at obviously Michael Petway. He's the vet in the room. He's been at JSU for years. He's averaging 19 yards a catch. Brock Rexsteiner averages 19 yards a catch. Anwar Lewis out of the backfield averages 25 yards a catch. Cam Vaughn averages 15 yards a catch, and he's got 24 receptions to go with it. Outside of Cam Vaughn and Michael Petway, you've got 8 different players besides those two have at least 5 catches all year. This is a team that spreads the ball around. Yeah, you've got your two studs in Vaughn and Petway, but everyone else, they spread the wealth, and it makes it hard to key in on one guy. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the offensive game plan is, not just early in the game, but you look late as weather cools off. Of course, further up north, won't favor the passing game as much. But again, this is a team that runs the football so well, it may not matter.
Yeah, I think with the running game being our bread and butter, that will help us no matter what. Because, obviously with this game, it's probably not so much a factor, but whenever you look at, like you said, temperature, wind, rain, or whatever, like being able to run the ball will always, being able to come back to that and being able to rely on it and, knowing we're going to get at least 4 to 5 yards when I hand this ball off. That is huge. Because then, let's say you get into a situation where you have to pass, you may only need to pick up 2 or 3 yards. You can throw that screen, you can throw that drag, you can throw that little shallow out route, and you're not forced to try and make a big play. So yeah, coming back to the fact that our ground game is so reliable is huge, especially in a game like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, defensively, early in the season, we saw some struggles. A lot of it was obviously in the secondary. I know we haven't really played anyone since Eastern Michigan, but a lot of those issues have started to shore up. You've seen them at least limit the big plays and get off the field, whereas early in the season, that was not the case. And obviously Louisville's a great football team. But, you look at Coastal Carolina, they're 4-3. Their season has not really been great since they played us. You look at Eastern Michigan, again, they're a solid football team, but they're not running people over. They're 5-3, but they're averaging less than 30 yards a game. So, the drop-off hasn't been as big as I think people have advertised. So I actually got to give the defense credit. They've improved enough to where going up against a team with Caden Salter, with Quentin Cooley, knowing those two probably going to get theirs, I feel confident this team can limit the rest of the weapons.
Yeah, the biggest thing I'm worried about with the secondary, especially, is just looking to see those first couple of drives, how deep or how shallow the safeties are playing. Because we saw last week, if the safeties try and play close to the line, it's 9 times out of 10, it's not good. Our corners tend to not do the best on an island. We've struggled with a lot of either giving up a deep play or ending up committing, pass interference or holding or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see just how confident they are on the defensive side of the ball and seeing how deep or how shallow the safeties are playing. Um, and then talking about Cooley, we have been okay stopping the run this year. We've been pretty solid stopping the run, but we also have not gone up against a running back of his caliber. Um, so it'll be interesting to see if we, maybe commit an extra linebacker in the box, or maybe throw in some blitzes here and there to try and throw him off his game, and try and keep that yardage to a minimum. Um, but like you said, he's going to get his. Caden Salter will find a way to make an impact on this game, or at least try to. And it's really all just about minimizing the damage. The less we're on the field on defense, the better for our offense, especially running as up tempo as we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was, the concern early in the season was, could this defense keep up with how fast the offense wanted to play? And that was a problem last year. You saw, especially later in the season, you saw against Liberty, you saw it against Mexico State. Sometimes the offense was too fast for the defense, and it wasn't that the offense needed to slow down, but you'd see the defense get tired a little bit quicker. This year, after that, for those first 3 games, they've really kind of locked in on, all right, this is what we need to do defensively to give our offense a chance. They don't have to be 2012 Alabama defensively, but they've got to give the offense a chance to have an impact in the game. And we've seen that the last 4 weeks. They've done that, right? We're looking at a unit that first 3 weeks of the year gave up. I'm pulling it up now. Gave up a ton of yards, gave up a ton of points first 3 weeks of the season. Here it is right here. Yeah, first game, give up 55. Second game, give up 49. Third game, give up 37. Since then, they've given up 7, 24, 13, and 20. And again, you can look at it and say, oh, they've played worse teams, but you can also look at it and say, hey, they're doing what they're supposed to against teams that they're better than. So, this week, it'll be the first probably big challenge we've had in a month, but it'll be a good challenge. This is one of those games that, facing a team built around the option, knowing that could very well end up playing a bowl team and playing a bowl game against a team that runs option principles. This is good, something to really kind of keep in the back of your head. And I think especially moving forward with this 12-team playoff era, if JSU were to compete for a playoff at some point, Army's not going anywhere, Navy's not going anywhere, obviously Liberty's not going anywhere generally. The triple option's alive and well, so this is the kind of game where you can really get some good work against teams that do that and prepare yourselves for those future tests.
Yeah. I think it'll be a good game to get in. I think it's coming at the right time to where, like you said, everything is starting to come together. And also, right now, we're undefeated in conference play. We're looking at, this is our first year where we're fully eligible. If we can get over this hump, we are in a really, really, really solid position going into the back half of our season, trying to get to that point where we're in the conference championship game. Obviously, we still got to go through Sam Houston, and we still got to go through Western Kentucky, both of which are looking extremely solid this year. But I think as long as we can, get past this test, it'll help grow that confidence, and it'll help put us in a better position whenever we get to those games.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we're looking forward to it. Unfortunately, Jalen and I will not be in Lynchburg. It's a bit of a haul on a Wednesday from Birmingham, Alabama, but we will be at our apartments being quite passionate, and probably at least one of us are going to be on Demon Time on the Twitter
Oh,
account.
oh yeah,
Um,
especially
being
if it goes the way we want it to go.
Yeah, we're going to be some damn menaces to society if this game goes the way we want it to. Um, Looking forward, you mentioned it, Sam Houston and Western Kentucky, last two games of the season. But before that, we go to Ruston, play Louisiana Tech. We come back home for FIU.
Yeah,
Look, we get through this game. I'm looking at a potential to be 7-3 going into those last two games, being 6-0 in conference play potentially. If things go the way that I think they will. Um, If you told me that we were going to be in this position after the first 2 weeks, I would have thought you were insane. I mean, really, I did. I
yeah.
thought it was a team that had holes defensively, didn't have a quarterback, didn't have anything resembling a passing game. Last 4 weeks of the season been totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's been completely different.
I mean, yeah, the biggest thing after those first three games, everybody was perfectly okay with just getting the 6-6, 7-5. Now, if the cards fall the way we think they're capable of falling, we're looking at an 11-win season. Um,
Yeah,
we would finish the season 9-3, and with that, we would be undefeated in conference play. Assuming we win the conference championship, we'd be 10-3, and then go to the bowl game. That would be 11-3, assuming we win. Obviously, this is all hypothetical, but we're looking at the very real possibility of finishing the season with double-digit wins, even if we don't get to the conference championship.
yeah. I mean, it's been a big turnaround, and again, Sam Houston looks good. Western Kentucky looks really good. Um, but as we've seen from this coach and these players, don't count them out of anything. I mean, this team realistically it should be 5-2 right now. Um, right. I mean, you're really one play away from beating Eastern Michigan. And yeah,
Mm,
you get manhandled your first 2 weeks, but you know what? You learned a lot about yourselves those first 2 weeks. That you hate to lose those games because obviously it takes you out of playoff contention, but there are losses that teach you a lot, and you take it to practice and get it cleaned up. And now here we are at 4-3. One of, I mean, you look at the offense right now. This is one of the best units in college football. Um, and I'm pulling it up right now. Um, from a total offense standpoint, we're 12th in the country in yards per game. Um,
insanity.
we are basically 2 yards out of the top 10, with only Oregon and New Mexico being separating us from being a top 10 offense. Um, and again, a lot of it's on the ground. Yeah, we run the ball well, but you know what? They're throwing the ball well too. They're averaging over 200 yards a game. That's something that has not happened at Jacksonville State under Rich Rodriguez yet. Um, so I mean, this is very much a unit that's working towards potentially having a record breaking season within the university's books. I mean, it reminds me a lot of a team under Eli Jenkins that just could do a little bit of everything and had a lot of balance. And of course, that team had an elite defense to go along with it.
Yeah.
But this offense reminds me a lot of that. They can run the football and they can throw it when they have to. So as we come down the home stretch, I'll be honest, I'm really confident. I know, like you said, it's hypothetical, but 11-3 is right there for the taking. And I don't know if Coach Rodriguez stays after an 11-win season. I'm sure he'll have some suitors if we win the conference championship in our first year of eligibility for it and end up with 11 wins. I guarantee you someone will come calling. But in the meantime, he's our coach, and we got to enjoy it while we have it.
Yeah. I mean, I just really hope we don't fall flat because we're running on some really great momentum right now. Um, and as much as I'd love to go back to New Orleans, I would really love to see this team get a very higher prestige bowl game. Looking at Hawaii or Bahamas, as much as that would suck because I don't have the money to go.
No,
Um, which, as of right now, it seems like the most of the early projections seem to favor us ending on a high note because pretty much all of the ones I've seen have us in the Bahamas. Um, Obviously, Brett McMurphy, for whatever reason, has us going back to New Orleans in a rematch, a straight up rematch in New Orleans against Louisiana, which, for those of y'all that don't really know the ins and outs of bowl games, bowl game organizers try not to do that. Louisiana probably will be back in that bowl game because, for whatever reason, New Orleans Bowl loves them. Their fans hate it because they live right down the road and it's not really a trip. Um, but that bowl game loves them. But typically, organizers try not to have straight up rematches in back to back seasons. So I doubt that happens unless they just don't have any other choice. Um, but yeah, I would love to see this team get a higher prestige bowl, especially because the Bahamas Bowl is the last bowl game, the last non playoff bowl game of the year. Um, so yeah, I would love to see this team get a chance to play in a bowl game where it's not just buried in the schedule and they're playing at you know 11 a.m. or noon. I would love to see them get a primetime bowl game where that is the only college game on.
yeah, and you mentioned a round two in New Orleans. Obviously, we went last year. We had a great time. We spent a good majority of the game in the press box. Like you said, I would love another trip to New Orleans with the boys. But I really want to see this team stay hot, and in the weirdest way possible, I want to see this team go to a bowl game that I can't afford to go to,
Oh yeah,
because then that would mean that they played well. Um,
yeah,
I think my wife would probably appreciate them going to a bowl game we couldn't afford to go to as well. Because talking to her today with that Brett McMurphy projection, all I got told was I want good Cajun food this time, and we better stay closer to New Orleans. And she,
yeah.
she was she
It's
was on board immediately with going back to New Orleans.
for the
Um,
sake of my wallet, I don't need to go
yeah,
back to New Orleans, especially trying to plan a wedding.
yeah. You've got to. It's your time. Your turn to plan a wedding
Yeah,
this time.
for the sake of my wallet, we can put it we can put it where it's a plane right away.
Yeah.
Because I
Um,
mean, looking at it, we'll have CUSA is gonna have four bowl teams should things go the way they are currently on track. It'll be us, Western Kentucky, Sam Houston, and Liberty. Um, which I know for sure we have automatic ties to Hawaii, Bahamas, and New Orleans. I don't know if we have a fourth tie or like a fourth automatic tie, or if we have um, just other associations that we fall into. I know I've heard Dallas, Fort Worth, and Detroit mentioned, but I don't know if either one of those are automatic ties or not.
so pulling it up. Let's see here. Conference USA. Where are you at? There we go. So automatic, we have Bahamas, we have Frisco, we have Hawaii, and we have New Orleans. And then alternate,
Frisco.
yeah, Frisco. We're familiar with that town. Um, Alternate, we have 68 Ventures, which of course is way down south in the beautiful city of Mobile, Alabama. Um,
Ugh.
yeah, we've got Birmingham, which of course is about 5 minutes away from both of us.
Yeah.
We've got Boca Raton, which is really just dry Miami. Um, the Camellia Bowl. We definitely don't want to
Don't.
go to the Camellia Bowl. playing Crampton.
I'm done with that stadium.
Um, Cure Bowl. I actually don't know where Cure Bowl is played. Um, Here's a fun one. Fenway Bowl is up there.
Except those seats are horrible.
Well, I mean, yeah, the seats would be horrible, but it's that would be an interesting game to say. Hey, I went to a JSU football game in Fenway Park. Um, Gasparilla Bowl, Lockheed Martin, so the Armed Forces, Myrtle Beach. That'd be a fun one. New
Yeah,
Mexico, New Mexico.
not
I
going.
wouldn't be. And then First Responder
I'm good.
Bowl. So there's some fun ones out there, but the primary four are Bahamas, Frisco, Hawaii, and New Orleans. So
Yeah, and I
um,
mean, I can
the
look
good news is
again, but look,
I was going to say we're locked into those four at this point because I don't see a fifth team pulling ahead of us at any point this season.
yeah, I'm looking, and the next best record outside, which Sam Houston is already bowl eligible. Western Kentucky and Liberty have 5 wins. We have 4. Louisiana Tech is 3-4. But looking at the rest of their schedule, assuming things stay on the track as they've been,
Yeah.
um, they're gonna take 2 losses, one to Sam Houston, one to Western Kentucky, and they should take another loss to us, and that would put them at 7 losses. Then they're already out.
Yeah.
So, and then they play Arkansas. So they're really done. Um, there's not really any other feasible pathway unless Kennesaw State decides to just go scorched earth from here on out, and just wins out, goes 6-6 somehow. Uh, which they have Western Kentucky. They can go back to back major upsets if they want to do that. But looking at the rest of the way down, New Mexico State's 2-5. They've struggled with the turnover in their team. FIU's 2-6. MTSU is 2-6, and then UTEP is already eliminated. They're 1-7. So yeah, we're only going to have 4, which Frisco is okay. I don't know if I would go out of my way to go to Frisco. It's, for those of y'all who don't know, Frisco is just outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Which is a really nice area to go to, but I just don't know if I would make that drive.
Yeah, I would not make that drive. I would 100% want to fly. No, flights aren't awful. Um, round
Only
trip.
thing is that money adds up when you're
It does
paying for
for
a
sure.
flight and a hotel and food.
Oh yeah, it easily becomes for 2 people. It becomes $1,000 trip really quickly.
Yeah,
Because I mean, round trip from BHM to DFW somewhere in that 270 to 300 range.
whew. Yeah,
So then
I
you
just
do
don't
2 of
know.
those at 600. Hotel room for probably 2 nights. Another 400 plus food for 3 days. You're looking at another 200 for that. So yeah, it's easily a $1,200 to $1,500 trip. Don't think I'll be
Uh,
making that one. I imagine the only way I'm going to the bowl game again is if they're in New Orleans.
yeah, New Orleans is about it. Which again, if it is based on record and prestige, and they're going for that versus geographical um, placement and the proximity to the fan base, then I would rather us not go to the New Orleans Bowl. Now, if they are basing it on geographic placement and proximity to the fan base, by all means, give it to us. It's not a super great bowl game, like I said, for visibility's sake, but I will never complain if I get the chance, travel and support my Gamecocks in person.
Yeah. And one thing that we learned last year, going to New Orleans is, outside of crazy stuff happening on Bourbon Street, it's a fun trip for a bowl game.
Oh yeah,
And I don't know about you, um, I will pony the money up and stay at the team hotel if we go to New
oh
Orleans.
same,
I,
same.
I'm there will be much love to our boy Kevin Lunsford. There will be no staying in Hattiesburg and driving an hour and a half home at 2 o'clock in the morning this time.
No.
I definitely almost fell asleep driving back to Hattiesburg last year. We're not going to have it happen again. But
No.
but anyways, but look, at this point, I mean, we know we're pretty much locked into one of those 4 bowl games, and we've got a fairly favorable schedule. We have after Liberty, we've got 4 games left, and one of our 2 toughest games is at home. Again, we get into that final stretch and we're 7-3. I love our chances of winning out and maybe unfortunately being on coaching search Twitter this time in December, but it is what it is. It's been a fun season. I'm looking forward to more of it. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's much else to talk about. It's pretty quiet outside of football right now. We're not too far from basketball. I think we're about a week away from college basketball starting. Of course, the Gamecocks will once again take the court. The men with Ray Harper at the helm, and the women with Rick Petrie. Of course, I'm sure we'll get into it more next week. But as you look at the schedule, I'll touch on it real quickly before we call it a night. There's some fun non-conference games. You go to Air Force, you go to Coastal. You have the Boardwalk Battle down in Daytona, where we know we're playing Eastern Carolina. We go to South Alabama. We go to Missouri. We go to Eastern Kentucky. And then the conference slate starts, and we've got Kennesaw State, first conference game of the year on the road. I don't know about you. I could foresee myself being at that game.
Yeah, it's a strong possibility.
I mean, it's less than it's about a 3-hour drive from here to Kennesaw. I could strongly see myself being there. Of course, at some point, y'all will see the two of us causing a lot of problems in the cock flock this season at P. Matthews Coliseum. At some point, it'll happen. We don't know when, but we will be at least one home basketball game, causing some serious problems for the opposing bench. I'm eyeing actually February 1st, Saturday. They play Liberty.
Ooh. Yeah, that's gonna be one we're gonna have to try and figure something out.
Yeah, and the last game of the year before the conference tournament, Saturday, March 8th, at home against Kennesaw.
See, the basketball gods knew what they were doing, putting those on Saturday.
Yeah, our 3 of our 4 biggest games of the year are on Saturday, and they're all very makeable. Hey, and the Liberty home game is on Saturday too. So I mean, you look at it, we could definitely be at a couple games causing some problems. So, all right. Well, anything else you need to talk about?
Just real quick before we go, huge shout out to the women's bowling team starting the season off right. Got a tournament win down in Orlando, and one of our bowlers got tournament MVP. So I mean, and I believe she bowled a perfect game. If I remember correctly,
too, yeah.
I believe she bowled a perfect game on top of that. So like, double shout out, y'all did absolutely amazing. I know y'all are going to run it back again. For those of y'all who have not watched any of their tournaments, usually the women's bowling page will post the link, and it's usually free wherever it's streaming. Go and watch. These women are absolutely insane. It's kind of cool to watch just the consistency and the power and the pure domination from start to finish. So definitely go support them. Check it out. If they ever have like a little meet and greet and you're in Jacksonville and you can make it, go show them love. Make sure they know and make sure they're reminded that Jacksonville and JSU is behind them 1,000%.
Yeah, and just to confirm, so Daniel Henderson did roll a perfect game on our way to tournament MVP. They went 4-1 in the tournament, including beating Arkansas State in the Natty rematch to get to the finals round of the tournament. So again, huge start for the bowling squad. Like you said, I fully expect them to run it back this year. This is the best team in college bowling. Something we can really have a lot of pride about is having the best bowling program, not just team, but really the best program in college bowling with the best coach in college bowling, and Shannon O'Keefe. Last thing I got is some big news for those of you who have followed the Twitter accounts with the podcast and with Sidelines. I put out some news on them. We are officially on Substack, which, of course, for those of you in the know, Substack is kind of your one-stop shop for blogs and for podcasts. I have decided, kind of transfer us over to there for all of our posting because it's way easier to route everything to all of our socials. It's a lot easier for us to get paid for what we do because we get a lot more money per download there than we do anywhere else. And it'll give us the opportunity to start potentially writing some blogs if we get the opportunity to do so, which of course would be a big way to grow the brand. If you all will do us a favor, go follow the link that I posted on the Twitter accounts and hit subscribe with your email. You'll start getting every notification, whether it's a podcast episode, whether it's a blog post that one of us write. You'll get everything in your email, and it'll be a really good time for you. So, all right. Well, I think that's all for me.
I think that's all on my end too.
Cool. Well, for those of you who have stuck with us, thanks a lot. We are hopefully going to be back and a little bit more consistent now that we've gotten through these first couple of weeks of the season where we just constantly had stuff going on. Looks like we'll finally be able to start putting some more content out. So from the 700 Pelham Road podcast, I'm Caleb. He's Jalen, and we are signing out.